everybody. So the first couple of minutes there was handheld Panasonic G85 footage of the upper Provo River near the headwaters up near Mt Baldy, with the last scene being Bridal Veil Falls further down. And so from here, I'm flying my Phantom 4 Pro drone. This is the Provo River, about, I guess, 20 miles thereabouts below the peak near Mt Baldy. So you can see there's off to the right there, kind of a meadow-like area with see the boardwalk kind of crossing over some of the sort of swampy areas, and some horses and the like off to the right. So it's kind of a really cool meadow area to the, I guess that would be west of the river. So we're heading upstream here, just kind of following the course of the river. And it was a really windy day when I was flying the drone. Video's maybe not quite as crystal sharp as it is when it's not as windy. And you'll see a few places where there's some obvious buffeting. You know, the winds were 20-30 miles an hour, so for a little drone to handle that is pretty impressive. So this was shot all in early June of 2017. And, you know, this was the first year in about 6 years where we've had more than the average annual snow and rainfall, and the reservoirs and the lakes and streams really needed the replenishment. So turning back, and in this direction, you get that really the green of the grasses really pops. Now I'm not playing games with the saturation here. This is just the angle of the sun. And you can see the kind of sun shimmering on that little pond there, and then in a second it just kind of flashes over. So obviously I'm heading towards the sun. Just the green this time of year is pretty spectacular. And Utah being the high desert, you don't get a lot of the green except up in the mountain areas. At least not this kind of green. So we got the horses there again, the boardwalk, and the Provo River, this time heading downstream. Let's get a little closer to this left-hand corner coming up. You kind of get a sense of how much water is flowing there with the turbulence. And that's that little bridge we crossed over at the start of the drone flight. So an exact location where this is, it's probably about midway between the turnoff near Camas and Mt Baldy. So it's about halfway up the mountain. Must be a really, really nice place to camp during the summertime. You know, it'd be a good 10-15 degrees cooler than the the valley floor, and not counting the the beautiful scenery, and just to get away from the heat. From the valley floor to Mt Baldy, the temperature dropped more than 30 degrees. Still heading downstream. I'm turning around here in a second. But you get the darker green of the pine trees and the lighter, almost phosphorescent day glow green of the, I think those are aspen deciduous trees. As hot as it's going to be getting over the next week or so, we probably will see our first 100 degrees in Salt Lake City area by the beginning of next week. You do not want to put your foot in these waters. Water is probably not much more than about 35, at most 40 degrees. It will just suck the air right out of your lungs. Alright, so returning to my takeoff location, coming towards the end of this segment. And after this, we'll head a little further downstream towards the Jordanelle Reservoir. But I think sometime this summer I'm going to have to see about doing a little tent camping up here. Alright, this is about it for here, and next stop, the Jordanelle. And there's the Jordanelle Reservoir. We're at the east end of it here, and the browner water you see is actually the muddier flow of the Provo River into the Jordanelle. You can see the debris of twigs and branches and that kind of thing from the essentially floodwaters of the Provo at this stage. Peak flows in the Provo were just about the day I filmed this. About the 9th of June. So again, this is Jordanelle Reservoir and the east arm where the Provo River feeds into it. We'll be turning around to take a look at that, and here we are. So that's the Provo River feeding into it, and again you can see debris from trees and branches and the like. And I think you can also see just how heavy the winds were blowing the trees. and that wind became a problem. I make the journey upstream here towards the bridge where the Provo crosses underneath the road. And then I turned around and started heading back, following the ridge line to the north. But the wind was blowing in my face, in the drone's face, so heavily that even with the full stick forward, right stick forward, all the way, I was going, 3, 4, 5 miles an hour. So I had to basically change directions and descend in order to actually make it back. Gives you a good sense of the flow rate of the river there. That's, we haven't seen these type of flows in the Provo in like 6 years. And as you can see, this footbridge over the river, on the right hand side you can see that there's red tape basically keeping people from crossing it. I presume that's because of the high water levels. And I presume that tape will be coming down here in the next couple of weeks as the river goes down a bit. See the video bouncing a little bit, again from the wind buffeting. And because of that wind buffeting, the video isn't quite as sharp as most of my drone videos are, because it's kind of bouncing around a little bit. Not bad. I think the drone and the gimbal do a pretty good job of holding things pretty steady, but with 20, 30 mile an hour winds and gusting, it's tough. So here's where I turn around here, and again you can see the Provo River as it goes underneath the road and heads back, continues upstream. And from here to where the previous drone footage was is maybe 30 miles. Okay, so I've turned around, I've descended and moved away from that ridge line, and it was now able to fly at about 10, 12 miles an hour versus less than 5 miles an hour. It's great that in a high desert state like Utah, where we get the second least amount of rainfall per year in the country, that we still have places like this. You go up in the mountains and it's an entirely different landscape than the desert areas. And you don't have to go far to see the difference. From Salt Lake Valley, near Salt Lake City itself, up into the mountains is just 10, 15, 20 miles. Park City's 30 miles. And then in the other direction, you're just a few miles from the desert. Alright, coming to the end of the video here, doing a little backtracking. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and have a nice day.